Hello everyone, let's immediately go to the topic of this stream. My Discord. I made my own Discord and I haven't done this for the longest time because of my massive fears that it would be like way too annoying to manage and create and so on, but actually it was easier than I thought, at least for now. I mean, I haven't needed to ban anyone yet, at least. So, if you're interested in my content and things like NeoVim, Linux, window managers overall, shell scripting, Rust, whatever, you'll find yourself at home on my server because it also contains all of the people that enjoy the things that I do. So let's ping everyone who's interested in being pinged. And what are we doing today at youtube.com.television website? I wonder if anyone got this reference. Should I explain it? I mean, okay, whatever, I will. It's a reference to Tsoding. He's a streamer as well, like programming streamer. And I actually am inspired in some senses from how he does his streams. Like, very much so. The way that they're very simplistic. And they're like really talky. Like, I love that. So I took some elements from him. I don't remember if I've ever like mentioned it or not. So let me get a link to my Discord server and put it in the chat, so all of you guys can join the server if you want to. And yeah, as I said, there is a role that I can give to you. You would have to ask because I don't know how to make it like gettable by users yet. And then when I stream, I'll ping this role and you'll get a notification about streams. Because I noticed, and very often it's a lie that YouTubers just say, but it is true that sometimes notifications don't really come through on YouTube, especially if you're like on your phone. Sometimes I notice notifications are delayed or just don't exist. So yeah, at least for me, like having a Discord notification is a bit more stable. So what are we going to talk about today? About something that I found out by reading a bit of docs. Let's move chat here and do this. Blammo. So it's true, I read docs for fun, which is quite hilarious as it is. And I was reading docs on NeoVim. Let's see what exactly. Yes, I was reading change.txt. I was going through it and reading stuff, and I found something cool. Let's go to some file that has a bunch of stuff that I can use to show off something to you. There's a very, in my opinion, useless operator, but it's also very, very cool. You can encode emotion in ROT13. You might ask, what in the living and dying hell is ROT13? I also didn't know. What is ROT13? Huh, I guess. Is a simple letter substitution cipher that replaces a letter with the 13th letter after it. Interesting, isn't it? And this feature is not like a plugin, because at that point it would be kind of cool, but also not useful very. But no, like this is built-in behavior. Let me do G ? this is the operator. And you can see immediately, oh wait, where's my fucking grommet npx? Blammo. Here we go, now I can draw. You can see that my searching still like comes up even though I'm using an operator. Which is interesting. It's not exactly a bug, I guess, but strange behavior. Let me point it to the end of the line, and blammo, that's what it did. It rot 13'd all the letters. As you can see, it didn't change the special characters. Maybe it changes some special characters, but I don't know. But it did change the letters specifically, so I can like jumble up text if I want to. I'm kind of scared of doing this, but let's jumble up the entire file. It's gonna take a while. And that's what it turns into. That's like kind of interesting. Gura? Oh my god, is that a reference? Rock. Yeah. I don't know, I find this kind of both strange and kind of cool. So yeah, like this is built in. You can do help on G question mark. And it's like rot 13 encode motion text. Isn't that cool? I'll definitely find some use for it. Not sure when. But I don't know. Maybe it's more useful than I think right now. But what I've done more of is understanding default Vim patterns, Vim regex-like patterns. What I used to do in the past, and I've actually made a video on this, is I start my search and then I do either \V or \v. What are those? Capital V, make sure that the rest of your thing that you're typing in here is searched as raw text. Not exactly raw text, you still have to escape backslashes. And I think something else, I don't remember. But mostly you'll be searching in raw text. This is what \V does. And \v makes sure that all the special symbols are, hold up, that all the special symbols, like, I don't know, \V, or wait, no, \W. Actually, that's a bad example. So in \v, if you use plus, it will be seen as the regex plus, the one that means one or more of the previous thingy. While if you were to use plus in \V, it will be just seen as a literal plus rather than having this extra meaning. And to give it extra meaning, you would have to escape it with a backslash. So effectively, two modes, raw mode and actual regex mode. I've used that for a while. It's a pretty good approach, but it unfortunately limits me. Let's say I search for something with \V to make sure that it's raw. Say I do like friendly path, for example, and I search for that. And the thing is that the registered slash contains the last thing that I searched for. What I actually want is most definitely friendly path. But if I were to ever just paste from that register, now aside from friendly path, which is probably what I want, I also have this, which is just kinda annoying. So because of me always using \v or \V, I couldn't really make use of this register. For what it's worth, I still don't, but now I don't have the restriction. Now when I search for something, it's just a search pattern. So in the same exact way, I would be doing friendly path, but now if I reg slash, it just has that. So now I made this register much more useful. Also, not using \v and \V lets me make one less decision. When I start searching for something, I don't have to immediately think, wait, hold up, do I want regex or not for this? And regardless of my decision, whether I want regex or don't want regex, I'm kind of stuck with my decision. And I either have to escape everything or escape everything in a different way. So I'm kind of stuck in a single decision, but using default Vim's weird regex mode, you could call it, because it uses regex notation for some things but not for others. It also uses regex notation for some things in certain positions and then doesn't in others. It's very strange, inconsistent, and pretty stupid and pretty unreasonable overall. But still, unfortunately, it is worth learning because it can make me more efficient in a way. If I get used to the defaults so much that I don't mind them anymore, you know? So here I'm not bound to only regex or only not regex. I do friendly, and now on a whim I can just decide to do this, to say word, and then plus to do something like this. Technically, it does the exact same thing with \V, because you escape both W and plus. But if I decided on raw mode, I am most likely not going to be I'm going to be consciously not using regex because I'm not in regex mode. You know, does that make sense? So yeah, I decided to get more used to default Vim patterns. And thanks to that, I figured out, rather I learned about more things. And to be fair, I still don't understand them well enough to really show them off, because they are still very confusing and hard to wrap your head around, even if you know regex, and I do. So but there's one thing that is pretty damn easy and is very, very, very useful, to the point of I wish it existed an actual regex. Let's imagine this situation. What if we want to catch neovim underscore buffer underscore get name, right? But maybe this string can appear in more places. Maybe as a variable name, it would be really, really strange, and you shouldn't do that, but that's a whole different question. Maybe, what else? I don't know. Maybe it appears somewhere else in text. Maybe in a comment, for example. And you want to catch specifically this string before which we see vim.api and after which we see specifically 0 in brackets. Because you also could pass something else than 0. Now, how do you handle this? First, I'll show you the more, I guess, default solution, the more regex-like solution. And I'll struggle through it because I still don't fully understand how the thingies I'm gonna use work. And I want to show this to you to kind of showcase how annoyingly difficult this is. So we do vim dot, we should probably escape it, API dot. Let's immediately edit this in a small buffer. Yep, that's something that you can do, which I find really cool. We wrap this in a group. It's very normal. Now we need to somehow do back reference, I think it's called. So we do backslash at, and I believe this with a equal mark. Right. Then we do neovim buff get name, and we do a similar thing. I just need to remember now how to do it. We wrap this in another group, and now it's this and 0. I think this is fine. I shouldn't have entered this buffer mode because now I can't see if it's selecting anything or not. I guess we'll see. I think we just leave a equal sign here. It's most likely gonna not work. Wait, really? It worked? Oh wow, what? That's pretty surprising. I kind of expected that I messed something up here. Well, oh wow. I'm so smart, I guess? Wow. I'm glad, but honestly that was not supposed to happen because, I mean, let's look at the thing that we entered. Even if you do understand regex, and even if you do understand vim regex, this is a bit ridiculous. For trying to express a concept as simple as before my thing this should be there, and after my thing this should be there. Pretty simple concept, but it's expressed so inconveniently here. And if you look, hold up, I have a thing for this. If you look, oh Jesus, why are you so sloppy? If you look at this, it's also a lot of syntax. It's true, and I agree that you could put backslash lowercase v, and then you wouldn't have to escape these brackets to make them into groups. I believe that you would still have to escape this and this. But like, yeah, you could. And it would be an improvement. But then it comes back to the point that I made at the start of the stream. So my main point is that it's a bit too much, especially if it's something that you want to do on the go. Maybe you'll get used to doing this, but this is still a lot of characters to type in to get your meaning across. There is a better way. First of all, let's search for something different. So we refresh our search to make sure it's not a fluke. Let me show you something amazing. I just start, where am I? Start typing in vim API dot. Notice how I am not wrapping it in a group, and I'm not doing any weird stuff. Then I do this magic, zs, backslash zs, importantly. Then neovim buff get name. Then I do z, so backslash z e, and now this. When I press enter, where we have selected exactly, it's 1-to-1 in terms of difference, the thing that we just searched for with a different, much more difficult regex, even if it's not particularly different by size, it's more complex. So what is this? Like, how did we do this? Z ZS, and let's use yellow here, ZE. They're fucking amazing. And I wish they existed in actual regex, because they're so useful. What is ZS? ZS means start. It effectively means this is the marker that our match starts here. In other words, we say, okay, this has to match, this has to exist, but it's at this point that we start actually grabbing stuff. It's at this point that we actually start like matching and getting stuff. Like, see the difference? So this has to exist, but this is the actual thing that we match. This is the thing that we get. And \ZS does match always, but it always matches 0 width. So it doesn't match anything, but it matches still, which is an interesting concept that regex also uses, by the way. And our lovely ZE is a very, very similar concept, but the other way around. ZE marks that, okay, at this point we stop grabbing, we stop getting the text, we stop matching, but everything after still has to match for this entire thing to work. Let me prove that to you. Let's change this to 1, and see, we're not appearing at that 1. When I press N, I go to a completely different place, which means that, yeah, indeed, specifically 0 in brackets has to match for our other match to work. I'm not sure of the best word to use to differentiate match and grab, but I guess, well, yeah, that. So grab is the text that we actually are going to get, and match is the text that has to like still be there. So these two are so huge, especially in substitutions, because imagine this. You do S, and by the way, you don't have to use forward slashes, you can use any character, any symbol. I decided to use semicolons from now on because they don't often come up as symbols that I have to type in, so you know. And then I do something like vim, once again API, and then ZS, neovim buffer. And actually, let's do it a bit differently. Say I want to change all the get names. Yeah, so I want the method to start with neovim buffer get ZS. So I want to grab name that starts with neovim buff get and replace it with path. And then I do G, enter, and it would all get replaced. I don't want to show it to you because everything is going to jump. It's not going to be very helpful visually, but trust me, it would get replaced specifically here. It would just change name to path, and you're not doing any complicated regex to reach this. You just literally type it in with one special thingy, and that's it. And change all the names to paths specifically if neovim buff get comes before it. It's so good. It's so good, to the point of vim patterns almost being not crazy, but no, they're still very, very crazy and insane. I have read the entire page of pattern.txt. So this one, it is 1,500 lines, which is actually less than I thought. But I've read all of this and I do incredibly recommend it. Maybe not if you're a beginner and you're like kind of just starting out. This can be like a bit too much. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Maybe skim through it and try to understand the more like easy to understand stuff. But since I've been using NeoVim for quite a while, I wanted to put in a lot of effort in trying to understand all of the weird bullshit that most of it, to be fair, I'm not going to use probably, but I want to have that in my toolbox. I even added some stuff to Anki to make sure I remember it, whether or not I use it. But through reading that entire document, the one thing that I found really cool is the fact that you can use \zs and \ze. It's not very understandable and obvious in the explanation there, to be fair, but I did some experimentation and reached this, so here you go. Feel free to use this in your own patterns for searching, or most likely more usefully, substitution. Let me pop a snooze. Before I forget, because I definitely will, this track recently got released and it's such a fucking banger. I gotta share it with you. Like, it's been stuck in my head since I heard it first. Like, wow, it's so good. Zero X Trash, the main artist there, he's so good, and yet when you look at his profile, he's like so strangely professional. It says something along the lines of, actually, we can go look. This usually comes up here. I wonder, yeah, probably at the bottom of the page we'll probably see his thing. It was worded differently. Basically it said rage rapper based in Oklahoma with a period, and overall it felt kind of very professional despite the music that he actually makes. It's very like interesting. And another thing, I've been watching Kengan Ashura, the anime, recently, and it's fucking amazing. It's basically Baki. It's pretty much Baki, like almost one-to-one. A lot of things are very similar between the two shows, and if you're a Baki fan, you're going to like Kengan Ashura almost definitely. It's a bit more down to earth, but it's still ridiculous, and things don't happen that way in real life. Basically, it's still very ridiculous, but not as ridiculous as Baki. And I'm watching the second season right now, and the opening fucking slaps. Let me send that to you as well. The first 30 seconds are stuck in my head. Everything else I skip, to be honest. But the first 30 seconds, yeah, they fucking slap. And honestly, they're the most important part, because you can't, at the very least, skip the very beginning of an opening. And then you might actually start listening. I mean, when I start an anime, I try my best to watch the opening fully the first time I see it. Sometimes it's still unbearable, but I try. let's continue on with something even more amazing. I have briefly mentioned, but I haven't gone into it too much. I think on the last stream, the fact that I switched back to Kitty from Alacrity. Now, do I recommend Kitty? Hell no. I think it's a pain in the ass, and not in the good way. It will make you bash your head against the wall if you ever get a cool idea. When you're using the Kitty terminal, do not, like, I swear to God, do not get any cool ideas. Keep them to yourself. Keep them stashed away, never to be implemented. I know this is very, very weird to say, for sure, because usually I'm an extreme configurator, and I configure everything, no matter how difficult it is. Kitty is the only fucking exception to this. I mean, well, I still configure it like shit, but it's just a terrible experience. It's terrible. It's horrible. So I don't recommend it. Don't recommend configuring it, like, to any cool extent. Just go through the options, set them, and forget them, ideally. Because if you don't, it's gonna be fucking terrible. So, if you were to ask me, Alisa, which terminal should I use in Linux? I would still recommend Alacrity. It is simple, and in its simplicity, it is amazing. However, why would I switch back to Kitty? Well, mostly the fact that it renders 2 times faster than Alacrity. That is hard to ignore, not gonna lie. And it renders more correctly. I'm not sure if you can see the difference from like 2 streams ago. Maybe you can tell a difference, but basically all the text, all the font and characters are more pretty. That's because they're rendered more correctly in Kitty than in Alacrity. So Kitty has a better rendering engine, I guess. I'm not really good at this, so I don't know how to call this properly. But yeah, and if your thought right now is like, I can't notice a difference in speed anyway, it's probably not that big of a difference in rendering, like, by all accounts, keep that opinion. I think, like, that's valid. But even considering that, I have noticed a difference, unfortunately, and it's a pretty noticeable one. I decided to try out Kitty again, and fuck, it renders more beautifully. It's like easier to look at, or better to look at. So let's actually get into the configuration for Kitty that I made. It took me fucking some effort, but I figured it out, and actually was a bit easier than usually. So let me explain the concept. In Kitty, there are tabs. There are also windows. It calls them windows when in reality they're panes. And then, very strangely, it also has OS windows, it calls them, which is really stupid. They should have just called Windows panes, and Windows, like OS windows, should be just called Windows. You know what I'm talking about? It's like confusing to even talk about. It's pretty strange, but yeah, basically 3 of those. Keep that in mind. How do I like flow into this? Okay, long story short, there's a default thingy that you can just set a mapping to, and you'll come across this pretty easily to make a window in the current working directory. So I have this NeoVim pane the current working directory of the shell is ~prog.files. So when I use my hotkey, it also opens a window in that current working directory, which is very convenient. However, what if I switch to a different directory? You can see it in my tab line that now my current working directory in NeoVim is different. Keep in mind that my shell current working directory is still the same. If I exit out of NeoVim and look at my shell prompt, you'll still see .files there. But the current working directory in NeoVim is now Astro NeoVim. So they're different, and when you change your current working directory in NeoVim, it does not change your shell's current working directory. So when I use my mapping to open a new window, a new pane, and the current working directory, I still end up at .files. That is expected behavior, like that's not a bug. However, wouldn't it be convenient to be able to open a new terminal in my NeoVim current working directory? Well, my answer is yes, it would be very convenient. So I have this now. I have a hotkey to open a new kitty pane in the current working directory of NeoVim, which is very, very convenient. I open a project and I work on it. I can quickly open a terminal there and do project-specific commands very quickly. And then I made it convenient for me so that when I press the same exact hotkey in Fish, it closes Fish. So the behavior that I now have is a toggle terminal. You can see how I'm pressing the same hotkey and it toggles the terminal basically. There's a plugin for this for NeoVim. It's literally called toggle term. That is effectively that. It toggles a terminal. However, it toggles a terminal within NeoVim. Like creates a TTY inside of NeoVim. And because of that, it follows different rules. It works differently. A lot of your mappings are not going to work there anymore. And it's like a bit more annoying to keep track of, which is why I preferred to have this. It took more effort, but also I was able to do it. And then also, I made something even cooler. Let's move chat like this, so you can see where the current file is. It is in Astrolua plugins. What I can do now, aside from the hotkey that I just showed you, is create a terminal in the directory of the current file. You can see Astrolua plugins. So I opened a terminal in the current working directory, or the parent directory of the opened file. So I can make this distinction, which I find to be incredibly cool. So I can now, let me show you some better example, I guess. Let's go back to .files and go to prompt. Maybe I just created this new fish script and it's empty. Let's actually literally show you this. Delete me .fish, and I start working on my new fish script. But I also want to be able to execute it, and to be able to do that, I need to give the X permission, the execution permission, to this file. Now, for what it's worth, I already have a hotkey that copies the full path of the current file, so I could go to the terminal anywhere and chmod like this. I could do this and it will do the exact same thing, but it feels kind of nicer. Wait, hold up. Why doesn't it work now? What the hell? And now it doesn't want to work. So effectively, my idea was to open a terminal and fish fun to be able to more easily type in delete me. That's pretty strange. Let's do it a different way. Strange, we'll have to fix that. But that's the idea. That's the wild thing, it used to work. I wonder why it doesn't now. Let's try to move to a different directory and try this again. Huh. I'm like very confused. Maybe like this it will work? Huh. Something broke. And I'm really not sure what. I know what. Let me try to quickly fix this and we'll see. Like, I'm pretty sure it's what I'm thinking of. Yes, okay. That's a whole different thing. So the idea was actually fine. Let me quickly fix it. I'll explain what I'm doing when we get to this. It's easier to just type it in. I was trying to do some cool stuff. Alright, let me do this. And now do this. Yeah, I know, I'm like doing very hyper specific and incomprehensible movements right here. I might get to them as well. Let's try this again. Let's go to delete me and do boom, but blammo. And now it works. Fuck yeah, okay, hell yeah. I'm glad that it didn't take particularly long time to fix. Because doing these things on stream can break the flow pretty easily. So now I have it's open in fish fun exactly where the file is, and now I can do chmod plus x. I should definitely make an abbreviation for this, like something like chmex. Yeah, chmex. Chmod plus x, and I can just type in delete me tab boom. So I don't even need to copy the full path or anything. And then I also have a thing that copies the name of the file rather than the path. So I could chmod plus x and paste the path like this. At which point it's not much different from just copying the full path and pasting it in whatever directory. So it's not really functionally that different, I understand, but it feels better. It feels better if I just use a simpler, shorter path. I guess it's more clear because my brain doesn't have to parse the full path that is like longer. So yeah, this is very, very convenient. Let's delete this file, blammo, and go to the actual mappings. Immediately I'll have to tell you this. I use Astro NeoVim, and in my mappings I use the APIs given to me by Astro NeoVim. They're not required, but truthfully I cannot be bothered to write like the thingies without the API of Astro. So let's get to it. Where are we getting to? How do I search for this? So let's search for leader TY, and we should get there. Let's start at these two, at the main hotkey that I showed you first. What is happening here? We're calling a shell command, and the shell command looks something like kitten at launch current working directory, and we specify the current working directory that we want to open a new pane in. And we do this programmatically here. This is how you can use Lua, like in your configuration, to get your current working directory in NeoVim. So we get that and we pass that into the shell command. So what this ends up being is your current working directory, whatever it is. Now, why am I using an Astro NeoVim API here? Yep, I did. Hi, Sast. Technically, this doesn't have to be written by using Astro's API. Technically, what you could do instead is vim function system. Too long didn't read. Go read this to understand it better. And guess why my chat gimmick this time? So far I can't, but maybe I will as time goes. So we could do system. Let's actually use double quotes here for a reason I'll explain. Kitten at launch current working directory, and then vim dot function get current working directory. Whoops, forgot to concatenate, and here, and also double quotes and a single quote here. So I mean, same thing, different day, I guess. There's not much difference here, but I do not enjoy how, well, I might not necessarily have to handle possible spaces here, but I should. It's like a good practice. So that's why I'm using single quotes around the current working directory, and I'm also concatenating it. Effectively, I find this approach a bit more annoying, even though it's functionally the same. So basically what I'm saying here is that you can absolutely rewrite this to just use built-in NeoVim. You don't have to use Astro Core, like Astro NeoVim API. I just find it more convenient. So I'm showing this to you as a proof of concept idea that you may take for yourself and implement in your own way. As I speak, the track I sent you is still rotating in my head. It's so fucking good. I don't get how rappers just make music this fucking good. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, this is the main hotkey that starts a new pane in the current working directory of NeoVim. And then this one that I pressed comma before to start it in the parent directory of the current file. Now, this is a custom thing that I wrote. And here's and here's how it looks like. So we get the full path to the buffer, and we do something. I don't remember what it does. Oh yeah. So this gets the head. So we get the full path. So we get basically this. And by calling this, we remove the base name and we stop at the head. So this is what we get. And by the way, fname modify and also vim function expand and also vim function, oh, what am I thinking of? Something else, but I don't remember it. But so vim function expand and fname modify are incredibly fucking useful APIs from built-in NeoVim, so I really recommend reading the docs on them. So fname modify here and expand, both of them are like really useful. A bit like annoying to figure out in a sense, but really powerful in modifying paths to be conveniently like correct. So I'm using them here. So you can just take this function and use it if you also want the in parent directory functionality. So these two mappings are like mostly of all of what I use anyway. They're kinda enough. Do you think you'll ever learn NeoVim in its entirety? Ah, I see. So your every message is a question. Is that the gimmick? And your next message is going to be, well, what do you think? Good question. No, I don't think that's possible. Because by the time I understand some part, it has already been built into something even bigger. Especially if you consider the environment around NeoVim and how much it is being developed constantly. Because once I figure out the entirety of built-in NeoVim, I'll go on to figure out the entirety of all the plugins. How did you figure it out? See? Hell yeah. And by the way, for like maybe if you're a NeoVim user and you're just starting out, or maybe you don't use NeoVim but are looking into it, don't be scared. The reason I'm figuring all of this out, you don't really need to, like, at all. You can install Astro NeoVim and be happy, like, pretty quickly. There are some things you'll have to figure out, and they can be difficult. Like, that's understandable. But you'll mostly be up and running very quickly. The reason why I'm learning about all of this, like, hyper-specific stuff is simply because it's my hobby and it's really, really fun for me. So that's why I'm learning so much. It's just really interesting, fun, rather than kind of being required for better productivity. I might earn some more productivity, but it's not worth the effort that I'm putting in. So I very much recognize that it's just a fun hobby for me that I enjoy doing. So yeah, if you're like scared of all the things that I'm doing here, you really don't need to. I just find it kind of fun. So these two mappings are mostly all you need. But at the start, I mentioned that Kitty has tabs, panes, and OS windows. So I thought, what about if I made the equivalence of these two mappings, but for every type of thingy that I can create within Kitty? I might not use all of them, all of the combinations, but it feels useful to have a singular system that works very logically for me to be able to do any combination. It's more consistent that way, more understandable, easier to remember. Speaking of hobbies, do you think it's alright to spend on one's own hobbies? Yes, it absolutely is. It very much should be. You can very easily get caught up in like being focused only on productivity, only on work and all that stuff, and forget to actually like enjoy life, I guess. Regardless of what the hobby is, like it's important to have them, important to have your own fun things. Because if you don't, you'll just die of exhaustion and burnout. How shall I thank you for giving me the little push I needed to decide to spend all of my money on gacha games? Well, that's kind of different. That's kind of different. It depends on, like, it is also in a sense okay to spend money stupidly, but only if, like, it doesn't put you in a pickle, you know? I used to actually donate, like, spend my money on certain Russian game called Kopateli Online. I don't know if anyone remembers about it. It was really fucking fun. Honestly, I don't regret it. It was money well spent at the time. Actually, it makes me kind of surprised that like I don't really spend any money on configuration. Does it not count if I'm already in a pickle? You can always get a bigger pickle, so yes, it counts still. Wait, that's a funny phrase. You can always get a bigger pickle. Is that even true? I don't know. So, I created this system where I make all the combinations. All of them start with leader T. So now it's not a hotkey on Alt/, but instead it starts with leader T, which for me is just pressing comma T. It can sometimes be nicer to press than an actual hotkey. So all of them start with leader T. If what I'm trying to create is a window, is an OS window, then the next character is Y for window, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, fucking window. And then S stands for, I guess it doesn't stand for anything, it's just a convenient key to press. But effectively, S means that I am creating a terminal in the current working directory of the head of the current file. So this will continue. If I'm creating an OS window, it's going to be Y, and if I'm making a head terminal, let's call it that, I use S. And here's the command. Do you agree with this statement? We should make a highlights channel in the Discord, which would act as a starboard and quote archive. We would first put that thing you just said about pickles. I mean, I already kind of did that to an extent. I have starred, or rather I pinned one message that I found really funny. So we could do that. Like, find especially cool messages and pin them, because I think it's kind of neat. But a more like elaborate way to do it, maybe like how it is on the hotkey Discord, where whenever you react with a star emoji, you like star a message, and if it gets enough stars, it appears in a channel, which is pretty cool, but a bit like too elaborate for a server as small as mine, I think. So we'll start with pins. Then, if I'm creating a tab, the next character is P. And you can see a consistency here that I'm using S here again to also mean, oh, make now a tab also in the head directory. I think that is called a starboard. Do you want one? Depends on how like dirty you would feel. I'm not sure how to explain that properly. Pretty sure it's just like entirely an autism thing. It can feel kind of out of place or dirty. So it depends. We'll see, I don't know yet. And if I'm creating a pane, I am pressing I. So all of these create a new terminal in the head directory, but in different states, either an OS window, a tab, or a pane. And then we continue on. Same thing, OS window, tab, pane, but now we use F now we used F to mean like just a terminal in the overall current working directory of NeoVim. Then I use something a bit more specific. V opens NeoVim in another OS window, tab, or pane. So it opens NeoVim in the current NeoVim directory. This already sounds like a bit more confusing in my opinion. So let me just show it to you. So we're currently in dot files, and I can do leader T Y V, and it opens another NeoVim also in dot files. Let's close this. And because we open NeoVim immediately, once we close NeoVim, the pane also gets closed. So that's why I'm adding these distinctly, rather than just doing this and opening NeoVim like this. So that's why. Okay, so let's go to some other directory to make sure it's not a fluke. And you can see it opened in our NeoVim directory. Is that a different wallpaper I spot? Perhaps, I don't know. I hope closing this application will not fuck up my sound. I feel like it might. So yeah, here it is. It's really, really cute. It's very like homely. So this is like pretty convenient, especially if what I'm trying to do is effectively reload my current NeoVim. What I'll do is this, and then press my hotkey to close all other panes on this tab, which is Control-Shift-I. You use Wallpaper Engine back on Windows? No, never. I don't think I've ever even tried it. A certain person that I knew, and I guess knows still, was really good at wallpapers and just stole some from him. Nope. I mean, I guess I could, kinda. But I can't be bothered to spend time looking at wallpapers for too much. It's fine overall, but I'm just like, you know. I'm noticing now that this simple symbol repeats in 2 places, and I probably don't want that. I'm not sure what I want instead though. So yeah, I can now kinda reload NeoVim without fucking up everything else basically. What I used to do is just close everything and then reopen the window. But now I also have like another project I'm currently working on in another Kitty tab So I can't exactly just close the entire window, because I'll lose this. I mean, I can reopen it pretty easily, but I would rather not, you know? So that's why I have that. Do not stare blankly at your wallpaper for a few hours a day trying to deal with the emptiness inside as I do. Nope, instead, I spend that time on configuration to deal with the exact same thing. Because at the end I can say, oh my god, look at my new widget, isn't it cute? Which is worth all the trouble. Can I? No, I guess I can't just control all my back. Let's... what do you... Wait, was it in a different place? It for sure... What? Huh. Ah, kit 10. Here we are. Blammo. So we're back here. So yeah, we can open NeoVim, and there's also another set of other mappings that I can't explain to you yet because it depends on the project that I'm currently working on, this project. Be excited, I'll show it off to you later because it's fucking incredible. Oh yeah, it should in theory be my favorite plugin now. My favorite plugin used to be oil.neovim, second is LuaSnip, but right now it's what I'm currently working on, and then oil, then LuaSnip. Yeah, so here they are. However, in very in fashion of Kitty, of course this doesn't work by default, but it's actually very reasonably easy to make work, make work these mappings. Let me try to find the thing that you need to add. So you need to add something like this. Listen on Unix, colon, and then some path. It's very reasonable to make it in temp kitty instance. You don't have to make any extension, just some name. I'm using dev as HM here because I would prefer to keep this in memory. This location, at least on Endeavor OS, is the location to tempfs. Effectively, this is RAM. So this is a file system that acts like files, but all of the files that are in this directory are actually stored and accessed in RAM. And also, holy shit, I am using 14 gigabytes of RAM right now. That's my personal best. God damn, I have like 3 left, which is still kind of a lot. So yeah, I'm using dev SHM here to make it significantly faster, but not like there would be any difference regardless. But I might as well, you know? Do you underestimate me so much? What do you mean? So yeah, once you add this to your Kitty config, the hotkeys that I showed you should in theory work. Unless you're watching 13 years in the future, in which case, yeah, it probably should be expected that things are not going to work. Let's go to here. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about. This I also can't talk about yet because it's also a plugin that I'm working on, a separate plugin. I'm also going to make another plugin, a third one, for my kill ring functionality. Yes, I'm working on 3 plugins for NeoVim, which should tell you just how much brain broken I am. Damn. I intended at first to also work on something on this stream, but I realized that I actually expend far more energy than I expected. So thanks for